All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Believe in Bills. 23-20. Bills rally, but fall short with some very questionable coaching and execution in the final seconds. I am Adam Benigni in Buffalo. Sal Maiorana is in the press box at NRG Stadium down in Houston. 23-20 Texans over the Buffalo Bills. Believe in Bills brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Head to the website today to get on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. All right, Sal. We're also live on YouTube. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Let's get right into it. And we start our discussion with the finish of this game. Questionable in-game coaching decisions have been a check mark against Sean McDermott during his tenure in Buffalo, and this result only adds to it.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, look, we've got the 13 seconds debacle, which nobody will ever forget, obviously. So this doesn't rise quite to that level because that was a playoff game that ended their season. This is week 5, and they're still in first place somehow in the AFC East. But this was, as you said, a debacle at the end of this game. To have come back from a 17-point early third quarter deficit, to get into position to get the game to overtime, and then to do what they did on their final offensive possession was criminal. Now, here's look, the Texans had all 3 of their timeouts, Adam. So the Bills could have done the conventional thing and run James Cook 3 times. And odds are they wouldn't have made the first down because I think the Texans, especially if they had run on first down, the Texans would have ganged up and played against the run. So they probably weren't getting a first down. But I have to believe that they had a better chance to run a little bit more clock off the clock had they run it 3 times than do what they did. And they left the Texans, obviously, just enough time to get one play to get into position to kick a 59-yard field goal, which, by the way, Adam, it was 59 friggin' yards. Just adds to the gall of this defeat. Because do you think the Bills kicker would have made a 59-yarder in that situation? So, yeah, all that said, the Bills handled the end of the game terribly, and it leads to a loss that, quite frankly, it felt like it was a loss all day. I'm not even going to say it was really disappointing because it was kind of a miracle that they were even in the game given the way they played in the first half. But, yeah, coaching cannot fail the Bills like it did today, and they lose the game because of it.
You know, he took the blame for it, to his credit. Sean McDermott did. We got the old learn from it response, which is kind of a go-to for him. But that rings awfully hollow given the history involved here. And I do think there's comparisons to 13 seconds, and that's an obvious stretch and a reaction kind of heat of the moment post-game. But it comes kind of from the same place, right? In terms of game management, quick decisions. I mean, and it's not just confined to what amounted to a 16-second possession in that situation. There's the play before the final field goal. There's a communication issue, and the Bills are late getting personnel on the field. I know you asked about that after the game. And then there's the Dalton Kincaid, what looked like a reception, certainly near the end of the first half, that wasn't challenged. So, I mean, it goes beyond just that 3-play sequence, which deservedly gets most of the attention.
Yeah, now on the Kincaid play, he was right not to challenge that, Adam, because Kincaid didn't catch it. The ball did come loose as he went to the ground. So,
I thought that was awfully close. I don't know.
Well, I think it was close, and maybe he challenges it just for the hell of it. But he did say, and I agreed when I watched the replay, that they would have lost that challenge. So I'll let him off the hook for that. That was the information. Remember, too, Adam, he's relying on the information he's getting from upstairs. That wasn't a Sean McDermott fail. Yeah, maybe, okay, fine. If you want to challenge it just for the hell of it, go ahead. But he would have lost the challenge. The other stuff, though, look, he's the head coach. His headset is on when Joe Brady or Leslie Frazier 3 years ago is making those defensive calls in the 13 seconds game. He is the head coach who has the ability to overrule a play call. And after what just happened last week with Joe Brady and the failed trick play where McDermott didn't step in and say, wait a minute, we're not going to do that. He could have jumped in today and said, hey, on first down, why don't we try running the ball and see where we get? But no, he left it in Brady's hands. He said after the game, he loves the ball in Josh Allen's hands, right? He trusts Josh Allen in that situation. Well, okay, I understand he's got a superstar at quarterback, but you got to coach to the situation. And I just thought, as the head coach of the team, even after the first down play didn't work, maybe jump in on the second down play and call for a run. And he never did it in all 3 snaps.
Right.
And it ended up being a disaster.
He says his quote after the game was he felt he needed to move the chains at least once. Right. To prevent the Texans from
if they move the chains once, the game goes to overtime.
Right, exactly.
Very simple. But
exactly.
I know it was going to be difficult to do it, whether they were running or passing, because the Texans had them pinned back there. It was a great punt. That was a tough break for the Bills if the punt didn't go in the end zone. So I get it was a tough situation, but you can't just throw 3 passes and run 16 seconds, right? If you had run the ball, I think a few more seconds would have come off the clock.
Okay, so I get this leads to my next question. I understand your point about the Kincaid thing doesn't rise to the level of anything, the reception of the challenge or whatever, but the systems that are in place, communication, that sort of a thing. Understandably, he's got a couple of new coordinators. Brady's relatively new as an extension, a holdover from last year, now permanent on the offensive side. And I guess, the criticism that's leveled against McDermott, he has built an excellent program. There's no question about that. All right, we lost Sal there for a second. We'll see if we can get him back. Okay, we have you by audio, so let's just keep going with this here. To what extent is it warranted? I mean, he's done an incredible amount of winning, 4 straight division titles, all of that, still in first place in the AFC East, Sal, as you said. But I don't think it's nitpicking to be critical of Sean McDermott for what's happened historically now in these types of situations, in critical moments within games.
Yeah, there's no question. He is starting to. I mean, I think McDermott has done a fine job as a head coach, Adam. I'm not going to fire him for this offense, but there have been, some really unfortunate situations with this team that have cost them football games. I didn't even address the last play of regulation before the field goal. You're right. I asked him about what happened. How could you not be ready on that snap on defense? How could there be a miscommunication on what you were going to call? He said they wanted to be in nickel defense. And for whatever reason, Dorian Williams, who is always on the field, right? I mean, he is typically on the field in nickel defense. That's 5 DBs and 2 linebackers. Why the hell he wasn't out there is kind of ridiculous. But is that on Dorian Williams for being ill-prepared, or is it on the coaches for hey, what are you doing? Get on the field. I mean, there was nobody in the middle of that defense on that play. If you notice, I even said I was sitting next to Tim Graham, and I said, why doesn't Stroud just run straight ahead? He could probably gain 10 yards, get down, call timeout, and they've got a much easier field goal. The Bills were lucky that he tried to throw the ball there, and it made it a tougher field goal. But yeah, you can't have a communication breakdown with whatever it was, 15 seconds to go in the game.
Let's look at the bigger picture here. And the Bills were able to rally in this game. But I want to stick with coaching first. One final point here before we get into Josh Allen, the receivers, and many of the other issues. Let's go to Joe Brady for a minute. Look, they rushed for 150 yards in the game. James Cook, very effective.
Yeah.
Did he go away? I think he did. I think he got away from the running game too soon. I know they fell behind, but something that was working for them, they kind of got away from. And I think there's probably something to that point.
Yeah, I mean, they ran the ball well. They did when they had the opportunity, which is why at the end of the game, why not give Cook the run? I thought the offensive line was having a rough time in the passing game. Allen was running for his life today, but they ran pretty well. I thought the offensive line created some room in the run game. Houston's defense is pretty good against the pass, not great against the run. And the Bills did exploit that, especially, for probably 3/4 of the game. That's why it was puzzling why they didn't go to it at the end. But yeah, Cook was the best player on offense that they had. And, at the end there, I thought one of the key moments of the game, Adam, and again, they got away from the run after they forced the turnover at the 15-yard line. He throws 3 incomplete passes.
Exactly.
What are you doing? Give Cook a chance at least once there to do something, and they didn't do it. Now, well, actually, wait a minute. That was Trubisky in there for one play. I don't have the play-by-play in front of me. So maybe they did run it the first time, that first down, and it got nowhere. So, okay, I take that back because
I do have the play-by-play. Hang on.
Yeah, Trubisky was in the game, and I think they did hand off to Cook on first down. It got nowhere. Allen came back in and threw 2 passes. But your point holds that they probably could have run with the way the passing game was failing all day. They probably could have put the ball more than 20 times in James Cook's gut, and they might have been able to, maybe pull this thing out had they done that. You're right. They got away from it.
All right, so let's go to Allen's numbers here, right? 9 of 30, 131 yards.
Ugh, just brutal.
Yeah, I mean,
brutal.
Look, this goes back to
I'll tell you what it goes back to.
Rookie year stuff.
No, I'll tell you what.
Or the AFC playoff loss.
I'll tell you what it goes back to was the Jacksonville game, because I just finished my report card and I gave Josh Allen and the passing game an F, and I went back through my records. The last time I gave them an F was that disgraceful 9-6 loss to the Jaguars. So it's not quite back to his rookie year. They had that horrible game, but not since then has this this passing game been as bad as it was today.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offensive line, right? That had a lot to do with it. Allen wasn't entirely himself. The pass protection was beneath subpar. But the lack of the passing game, the receivers, that's the issue I'm getting to here, right? And with Shakir going out, we talked with Cecil Shorts about it earlier in the week. With Shakir injured for this game, I mean, you take him away from what's already a depleted group in the post-Stephon Diggs era, and we'll get to Diggs. I mean, I think you saw the effect of that today. Look at the numbers in terms of targets and receptions, right? Yeah. Keon Coleman, 5 targets, 1 reception. It's that 49-yard touchdown. Kincaid, 6 targets, 2 receptions, 34 yards. Holland, 6 targets, 2 receptions, 27. Samuel, 4 targets, 1 reception. You get the point.
Yep.
I mean, they're not going to win in that situation.
Here's what it adds up to. It adds up to this. The wide receivers only were targeted 18 times. They caught 4 balls for 76 yards. And as you said, 49 came on 1 play. Oh, by the way, guess what Stephon Diggs did all by himself? 6 catches. I don't have his targets in front of me. 6 catches for 82 yards. He outperformed the entire Bills wide receiver group.
Yep.
Pretty damning.
6 for 82 with a long of 18.
Yep. And he caught, I think there were at least 2 third and longs that he converted into first downs. Mm-hmm. So, look, we talked about Stephon Diggs ad nauseum this week. I think the Bills made the right move for their long-term viability to move on. But you kind of knew going into this game, Adam, that he was going to be a factor and it was going to come back and burn him in the ass. And it did today, because they have no one even remotely close capable of replacing him, certainly in a one-on-one situation. But Jesus, they got 4 guys who couldn't match him, and 5 if you count Tyrell Shavers. That's a pretty damning indictment on what the Bills did to replenish this wide receiver group in the offseason.
I mean, the ice is so thin, you take a guy like Shakir away, and I think it also speaks, but I mean, Shakir is by far their most reliable and consistent receiver at this point. But he's not a guy who's going to break a game open.
Exactly. He's not a Pro Bowler. He's a nice piece to have, but on most good offensive teams, Adam, he's what, a 2 or a 3? For a team that has a legitimately good, dangerous passing game, he would be like a 2 or 3, which is what he was last year for the Bills. Say what you want about Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis was their number 2. Shakir was their number 3 guy. That's what he still is, even though he's a nice player to have. You got to have a whole lot more than Khalil Shakir to be successful right now.
All right, so as far as Allen, let's just touch on him for a second. Everything appears to be okay with him health-wise. I know he addressed it after the game, but for those who didn't hear the post-game press conference, took a shot to the chest and ankle. Go ahead and just fill us in on that.
He said what he said at his press conference. I actually went up to him in the locker room after, and I said, so let me just make sure I got it straight, because on the podium you said It was more for the chest because he fell chest first. It was more for the chest why he stayed down, plus he rolled his ankle. But he went into the medical tent because the concussion spotter saw that his head banged the turf. Mm-hmm. That's why it wasn't because of the chest and ankle, it was for the head. So he went in there and he got cleared because he didn't have a head injury. Thankfully, he was able to come out. He missed the one play. But yeah, that's why he went in. So he told me, I'm good. Everything came out fine. And he is, the indestructible force. So that's good for the Bills that he only missed the one play.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk defense here. They got lit up a bit. Yeah. Injuries on that side of the ball have been a constant story, only adding to the list today. Lit up a bit in the first half. I thought did a much better job of kind of shutting things or limiting Houston to 6 points in the second half, and it shouldn't even have been that were it not for the offensive shortcomings in that final possession before they kicked the field goal. So they did a lot to kind of right the ship. Third downs, a very significant issue in this game. Your take on where things stood defensively overall today?
Yeah, look, their defense got off to a rough start. I mean, the Nico Collins play was brutal. That's so unusual for a Bills defense to get beat on a deep shot like that. But, you've got Cole Bishop, a rookie, starting his first game. He was back there. Rasul Douglas, I think, thought he had the deep help and let him go through. I don't know if obviously there was a miscommunication there somehow, and Collins was wide open. And let's not forget, Stroud threw a perfect pass. Yeah. I mean, Josh Allen had a couple chances to make big plays today, and he overthrew his receivers. Stroud dropped that right in the bucket for the touchdown. So that's an unusual thing for a Bills defense to have happen. And that was, that made it 14-3. But you're right. They definitely got things together. And I got to give a lot of credit to, you can say McDermott and Bobby Babish. Look at what he was working with, Adam. He didn't have Ed Oliver, Austin Johnson, Von Miller. He had to play 4 rookies on the defensive line. 4 rookies. Logan Carter, the tackles, and Javon Solomon, and who's the other guy I'm missing? There's 4 of them. 4 rookies were on there. I can't think of the other guy. But there were 4 defensive linemen, rookie players that were starting in this game, played in this game. He's got a rookie safety making his first start. You're still playing with Cam Lewis, who is, again, we've talked about him. It's a fun little story. UB kid, they missed Taron Johnson badly, and Cam Lewis can't fill that spot. So what are you doing on defense? You've got so many issues that they're working through. And like you said, to hold them to 6 points, and 3 of those coming on a 59-yard field goal, they forced 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter. The defense cannot be blamed. Even though they gave up 400 and something yards, you can't blame the defense for this. This was an offensive disaster. And I'll tell you, Adam, to me, the game was decided before the Fairburn field goal. The game was decided midway through the fourth quarter when Smoot forced the fumble at the 15-yard line.
Yep.
Williams recovers it. Again, we talked about Trubisky ran the first play. Josh Allen came in, did nothing. When they settled for that field goal to tie the game, you know what I was saying to my comrades in the press box. They're losing this game because I assumed on that next series, Stroud was going to take him right down and score the field goal. Bills rose up again on defense and stopped him, and then that led to the ridiculous end of the game and Houston getting the second chance to kick the game-winning field goal, but not scoring a touchdown. That was monumental for the Bills.
You talk about the impact of injuries, and it accents the point. When you get a Terrell Bernard back in a game like that, like you look at him on that interception.
Yeah.
Instinctively, that ball was intended for Diggs, and just it wasn't as much an athletic play as it was just an awareness of where to be. And I think it just illustrates the drop off. I'm not making excuses for these guys, but it illustrates your point in the drop-off when you lose upper echelon players in the numbers that defense has and what they've had to deal with, the impact that it has.
Absolutely. Bernard is a terrific player. You said he's got great instincts. He's a good athlete, but he's just a smart football player. We saw this last year. He was in on 6 turnovers in his first year as a starter. You know how much they missed him in that Kansas City playoff loss. So to get him back was certainly a good thing. It'd be nice if they could get Milano back because Dorian Williams, he's making progress, but he is not in any way, shape, or form up to Matt Milano's standards. So they're still playing down there. And then, like we said, Taron Johnson, they got to get this dude back on the field, Adam. They have got to get him out there because, Diggs, he would have been matched up with Diggs. Even if they're in zone, he would have been across from Diggs most of the game today. And I'm pretty sure Diggs doesn't have the day that he did if Taron Johnson's out there. So, hopefully next week they're being very careful with this injury, clearly, because he's now missed 4.5 games. They didn't put him on IR. They thought they were going to get him back today, and he wasn't ready. But that has to happen soon.
Another number that stands out, Houston was 8 of 16 on third down.
I pointed that out. And the third and longs.
Third and longs was the point I was going to make, yeah.
Third and longs have killed this defense for years, right? They have, for whatever reason, it always seems to bite the Bills on third and long. They do good on first and second down. You've got them in the situation you want them, and there's so many times when they allow teams to continue drives, and that was a big problem today.
All right, so all is not lost as the Bills are now 3-2. They got a break in terms of the Jets today.
Yeah.
So, and now a Monday nighter in New York, coming up here. So the critical nature of this road trip, we talked about this 3-game stretch, right? And they dropped the first 2 of them. Blowout against the Ravens, a nice rally, but for reasons we've discussed, an unfortunate result in a 23-20 loss to the Texans today. Yeah. Now a division opponent of the Jets.
And look, you're right. The Vikings nearly blew that game. I was watching that. We were all watching that in the press box here. And that game should have been over long before it finally ended. So the Bills caught a break. They caught a break with old buddy Stephon Gilmore making that interception deep in, I thought the Jets were going in for the winning score there. So that keeps the Jets at 2-3. It was too bad that the Patriots sucked again and lost to the Dolphins because they led almost the entire game, at least when I was paying attention. So they're 2-3 also. But we've talked about the Jets, Adam, and they're still, to me, the biggest threat to the Bills. So them losing that game helped. That's one more loss on the ledger, keeps the Bills in first place. And now you have to hope that the Bills can go to New York. And, we've said that if they could get through this first stretch 4-2, that would probably be, you take that. If you would sign up for 4-2 at the start of the year, they still have a chance to do it, but they're going to have to play a whole lot better on offense if they're going to get there, because the Jets defense, we saw it today, the Jets defense is still legit.
And historically, the Bills have had issues with the New York Jets defense.
That's the one team that has really given them problems, and it even goes back before Robert Saleh was there. They have always seemed to be a thorn in the Bills' side. So it's a big test for Buffalo.
All right. Sal Maiorana from Houston after a 23-20 Texans win that drops the Bills with a second straight loss to 3-2. Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. I am Adam Benigni, WGRZ-TV in Buffalo. Much more on this game and a slow start for the Sabres as well across the pond.
Did you watch it? Did you watch any of that?
Some of it, yeah.
I literally forgot that they were on Friday. Totally forgot. And then Saturday I was traveling, so I couldn't watch the game. But I saw the scores, and I'm like, it's just never going to end. It just is. Lindy Ruff is back, and I love him.
Yeah, they get outscored 7-2 in over 2 games. In Prague. So
same old.
We'll have Paul Hamilton in studio with us, spending some time on that as well. So a lot to get to, and thanks as always, Sal. We appreciate it. You can read Sal's work in the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, and thank you for being with us here on Believe in Bills. We will talk to you again on Wednesday from Orchard Park.